Hey, Teddy K here for the Best Buy blog, and in this video review, we took a look at the Samsung Galaxy Z Fold4, Samsung's latest flagship foldable that sees some iterative improvements. Having any phone that folds is still a novelty, and that's exactly what the Galaxy Z Fold4 is, or Z Fold, depending on where you live. This phone is very much an iterative upgrade, which you probably would expect in this case, but it's also supposed to be a groundbreaking device. Still, I mean, again, foldables are around, but they haven't really hit critical mass. You're not going to see them all over the place when you're out and about, and you find somebody holding a phone like this, it's still going to feel like it's something new and something different. But the thing is that if you're looking to upgrade to this from a previous Fold, it really depends on which one you have. If you're coming from the Fold 1 or 2, you're going to find that this one is a little bit smoother. The hinge especially, so Samsung went with something a little bit smaller on the hinge, a little smoother as well, so the way that it kind of opens up and closes, it just has that little extra smoothness to it. It's still, again, like it's still going to be sturdy, so it's not something that's super, it's just like, it's not going to be flimsy, really, which is always good. So you have that, and then of course you have the front screen. So the 6.2-inch display at the front, I think, is actually one of the bigger differences because it actually spreads out a little bit further. The aspect ratio is better, and honestly, I mean, especially compared to the first Fold, the image quality is far better on the cover screen. Now, when you open it up and you go to the main screen, for the most part, some things are going to feel a little bit familiar. You're going to have that little bit of a crease, so that you're going to notice that down the middle. It has not completely flattened out in this version. Over time, maybe you won't notice it, maybe you will. I don't know. I feel like that's a subjective point. The camera underneath the screen is still there. It's somewhat visible, but it seems to kind of camouflage a little better. Although, frankly, other than video calls, you're not going to want to use that camera anyway because it's terrible in quality. But I digress. So the main screen for me is really the key for usability. So what would you do with the phone? And of course, the multitasking that was introduced in a bigger way in the Fold 3 is back here. You do have apps that you can pull off from the side. So if you pull off to the side, you have a menu here that's here's a better look at it. Pull it off here, and then you can get apps from there and just drag them in. There is also the taskbar at the bottom, which I find is kind of cool. So when you bring two apps together, at least, you'll always see that taskbar. But even if you open up just one app, the taskbar shows up at the bottom and allows you also to access apps that even you've grouped together. So let's say, for example, you've created a combo. So you've got, like, let's say, a web browser and YouTube, and you put them together and you've saved them as a preset onto the side menu. That will also show up on the taskbar, allowing you to just drag it in whenever you feel like you need to have those two open together. It's one of those cool little features that, again, it doesn't seem like it's a big tweak, but it makes a big difference when you're actually using the device. Briefly, I'm just going to mention just the internals. So when you are doing all this multitasking stuff, you're going to find that things are going to run pretty smoothly. The Snapdragon 8 Plus Gen 1 processor works fine. No issues. I never really ran into too many problems here as far as any kind of slowdowns or lag, even when I was running 3 apps at the same time. So it's pretty good in that regard. I don't think performance is really going to be the challenge here. I think it's going to be more so, well, what are you going to do with it when you have it, right? I mean, it's not, I don't know that it's enough to just have the phone. Like, for example, with the cameras, so this phone is not breaking any new ground as far as cameras go. In fact, even though Samsung did change a couple things here, the main image sensor is the same 50 megapixel image sensor that the Galaxy S22 and S22 Plus had. In addition, the 10 megapixel telephoto camera is also the same one that was used in those phones. So what Samsung has done here basically is recycled old image sensors or already used image sensors and put them in this phone. It does improve image quality over the previous Folds, but again, it's not breaking new ground. So if you're thinking, hey, I'm going to get a state-of-the-art phone camera, this isn't the device to do that. This is a totally different situation. And it is a different situation in terms of how you shoot. So even though the image quality is going to be very predictable, I think, the way you shoot can change. And Samsung seems to have caught on to that, because I've been talking about it from the first Fold, which is that, for example, if you lay it down like this, now you can alter the angle that you're shooting a photo at. Very rare. to do that with another phone unless you have a case that allows you to articulate the lens that way, right? Or just to angle things that way. So the phone has that ability, and that's what if you're shooting with the rear camera. The fact that you can do the fact that you can do selfies with the rear camera as well. So for example, you know, if you're facing the camera, you're going to see a preview come up here. Again, not really something that's possible with a general phone, right? And you're getting the better image quality as well. Plus, you can use the different lenses. So if you want to use the wide-angle lens, ultra-wide-angle lens, you can do that very easily. Same thing if you're kind of shooting or you're doing video and you're facing the main screen. Again, similar kind of situation. You can also, if you're taking photos, you can see the live preview on the top half, and then all the controls are on the bottom half. Again, it's a cool thing that I think, you know, me being a photographer as well, I do appreciate those little nuances because it does change how you can shoot. It also, I think, brings out just a little bit of creativity, especially if you want to shoot in pro or night mode, where you don't really want to handle the camera just in case it blurs it or shakes the focus in some way. So for battery life, I wouldn't expect anything too dramatic as far as a change here. The phone is fine on battery life. It really depends what you're doing with it. So I think the variables do play a big role, which is why you're going to see some fluctuations. So if you're using it, let's say on a day where you're not doing much, the battery will probably last you a very long time. But if you're really active on it with a lot of multitasking, you're watching video, you're browsing at the same time, all those things, you'll probably have to charge at the end of the night. So it really, I can't quantify exactly how long it would last per day because given everything that's going on here, there are too many variables to take into account. One thing I will say is that the battery life is not exceptional by any means. It's okay. And perhaps that's acceptable for a device that's still kind of a novelty like this one is. One last thing is the S Pen. So the S Pen does not come with the Fold 4. There are two versions that are compatible with it. There's the Fold Edition and then there's the S Pen Pro. Neither of which, of course, you can holster in the device itself. You're gonna have to get a case that is gonna hold them in some way. The S Pen Pro, of course, is the larger of the two. So if you're going to get something to holster that, it's going to have to be a case that can really handle that. Whereas the Folded Edition is the standard size that the S Pen typically comes in for phones. If you want to use an S Pen from another device, so for example, I tried this with, I had an S Pen from a Galaxy Book 2 Pro 360 laptop, tried it on this, and I got a warning right away telling me that I could be damaging the screen if I continue using it. So different S Pens are made for different purposes, and that is especially the case with this because this, of course, uses a different type of glass or different type of protector to protect the glass also. So it's different from phones and tablets and laptops that Samsung makes, which is largely why there are other S Pens that will work with it. And that's my review of the Samsung Galaxy Z Fold 4 for the Best Buy blog. I'm Teddy K. Thanks for watching.